It is a great honor and a privilege to introduce Avraham Fonfeder, a survivor from the Glass House in Budapest in Hungary. Avraham, thank you so much for agreeing to speak to us today.
And a pleasure.
So this is a book that you've written. It's in Hebrew, Magal HaChayim. And Avraham, can I ask, where were you born?
I was born in Budapest. I was born in Budapest in 1935. And I was in the Glass House when I was 9 years old.
9 years old. And growing up in Budapest, did you come from a very religious family?
Religious, not fanatic family, but strict religious family. My father was going to the Orthodox school, and
in the Jewish quarter.
In the Jewish quarter, yes. I lived in Erzsébet 5. The people who know Budapest understand this address. It's not so very far from the.
And you went to a Jewish day school, to a cheder?
Yes. Not only that, they were teaching Hebrew. You hear this? In 1940, which was Hebrew was up. Nobody ever thought of learning Hebrew. There was a teacher, Mr. Eckstein, Zechron Evrocho. He was teaching Hebrew. We were in an Orthodox school, very big school. Tremendous big school, I think hundreds of pupils, also girls and also boys, but not mixed.
It was separate.
Not mixed. We were learning Chumash and all the things. And this went on till the age of about 30, nearly. I was bar mitzvah.
And growing up, you lived in the Jewish quarter, in the Jewish area?
In the Jewish ghetto, you mean?
The Jewish area.
Look, it's not exactly the
It's not really a ghetto because it wasn't.
Yeah,
really
but
sealed.
it's a bit out of the ghetto. It was a bit out. But today the Kempinski Hotel is.
Okay. And did you have any non-Jewish friends growing up?
No.
You mixed mainly
Only
with
Jewish
school friends and.
No, only Jewish friends.
Jewish friends. And your neighbors? Do you remember any of your neighbors that you grew up with? Were there mainly Jewish neighbors?
There were two Jewish families, not from, on the fourth floor, no, I don't remember, I don't know them. And there was a housekeeper, and the Hungarian housekeepers are responsible for many of the Jewish death people who went to the deaths, because they had the names of the Jewish people and they gave it over. Yeah.
And what did your father do, your parents? What type of work?
They had a big textile shop next to the big church. And
they had a lot of mixed customers, Jewish, non-Jewish customers?
I think non-Jewish, I think.
Okay.
Not only he had a shop, there were like these two brothers married two sisters. Avraham Fonfeder. And one was my father in Budapest, and one was his brother Naftali. He was in Békéscsaba, where I was born really, about 200 kilometers from Budapest. And they were shutafim.
They were the partners?
Yes.
And your family, are there many generations from Hungary?
I think yes.
Many generations?
I think yes. 100 years sure, but even more.
And the school that you went to, that they taught Hebrew, was it a Zionistic school as well?
No. No, I don't know any Zionism in Hungary, and especially not in the Frum people.
But it wasn't a Satmar school?
It was a school, Frum school, Orthodox school, about 10 minutes from where I lived, with many, many children. And I want to tell you one thing, that when I became 13,
Bar mitzvah?
Bar mitzvah, almost 13, there started communism. The communists came to Hungary, and they started, not enough that it was finished, the German Tkufa, started a Russian Tkufa. Ever terrible times, nobody was allowed to do anything. It was terrible. It's a communist, the Iron Curtain. And then, I don't know why, but I know that we with 9 boys together, we were sent to England.
But before, can I just,
Yes.
before you were going to England, can I just, after your bar mitzvah,
Yes, before my bar mitzvah.
before your bar mitzvah, you were sent to England before your bar mitzvah?
Yeah, I was bar mitzvah really Parshat Naso in England. But they made me a bar mitzvah 3 weeks before in Hungary for the friends.
And what year was this when you were bar mitzvah?
48, 1948.
So let's go back to, because with the glass house. With
Yes.
Do you remember the outbreak of the war? Do you remember do you remember anything about Poland being invaded? You were very small then, I'm
No,
sure.
I don't remember. I remember one thing very, very clearly. We were in the glass house.
Do you remember going into the glass house?
Also, I remember, but not exactly. I know that I was there with my mother and auntie and a cousin, and I remember on the 31st of December 1944. No, 18th of January. 18th of January. Later I'll tell you. 18th of January, 1945. I saw the first Russian soldier, Umar Atem Chovshim.
That you are free.
This I remember.
How long were you in the glass house?
4 months
4 months. And how did your parents manage to
get in.
Your father was in the glass house as well?
I think also, but I know my mother sure, and auntie and cousin.
How did you
How
manage
did they
to
get
get
in?
the Swiss...
I tell you, as you know, the Swiss consulate was a fake thing.
Yeah.
Because it was a machase for Jews.
Yeah.
It was not really a...
It wasn't a proper pass. It was a type of visa.
Yes, and there were 1,600 Jews hidden there. And in 31st of December 1944, very strong winter, the Hungarian Nazis, which they were even worse than the Germans, found out that this is a fake, and they came into the house.
This was the Iron Cross.
Yeah, Iron Cross.
The Iron Cross.
Milash, Iron Cross. So they burst into the house. They killed 7 people.
This is in the glass house.
In the glass house, they killed 7 people, even the chief rabbi's wife. And they took us all out in a very, very long row. We were standing, and people were saying the Vidui. We were on the way to the Donau to shoot us in the Donau, the river.
The Donau, there was the river. They say the river
It was very near.
They say it was red.
It was red. Yeah, they wanted to go on, to take 1,600 people, and I don't know what.
Do you recall this?
Exactly. And I know one thing, and the owner of the glass house was a tzaddik named Weiss Arthur. Zechron Levracha. He owned the glass house. And then when the tzarot started, he gave the whole glass house to save Jews. At the end, everybody was saved except him.
Wow.
He was taken away by the Germans and never seen again.
Can I just ask, did you know Moshe Krauss? Or did you
Not,
ever meet
I know
with
who
him?
he is.
But did you ever meet with him? Or do
My
you
father
remember?
met him.
Your father did meet him?
Yeah.
And Carl Lutz?
Also, I think my father, because they were much older than
They
me.
were much older.
Much older.
Wow. And when this all happened, do you remember leaving your house and going to the glass house?
No,
What
I
is your
don't remember
recollection?
this, but I remember back. As I told you, the Russians freed Budapest. I remember going back to our house. This I remember.
And do you remember the conditions in the glass house? Do you remember?
Yes.
There were so many people all crammed together.
You know where I slept? Under the table for a lot of times. You know, bimkom mizron. Instead of a mizron, there was glass. They are making the glass from such from soft things. And that was our mizron.
Like a mattress.
Like a mattress. But not only mine, of a lot of people.
And what did you do during the day?
I tell you, I was 1 minute. The glass house had a lot of things which people don't know. The glass house had a mafia. They were baking bread. And not exactly bread, but pitot. And I was, like a little child, giving out the pitot to the people.
How old were you at this time?
I was at 9 years old.
9 years old.
9
And you
years.
recall it, you remember?
Exactly.
And did you have friends with you?
Yeah, I had friends, but I was my cousin also there. And I remember on the Chatzer, in the Chatzer,
That's the courtyard?
courtyard, there was to wash the people's face and the body. It was very, very low tzanua because it was open.
It
and
wasn't so modest because there wasn't a place. There wasn't a
exactly,
place.
people were washing there. It was a terrible condition.
But it saved.
It saved, yeah.
Did you have other family that were taken to the Danube and were killed or were they sent off to Auschwitz?
No. I had an uncle also in the glass house, and it became so tzafuf.
It was so congested.
Yeah, so much that they made a hole in the wall. To the glass house was 29 Vada Street, 29 Vada Street. And they made a hole in the next building, which was the football organization house, and it was empty, and a lot of people went in because the people couldn't sleep anymore. And that was my uncle.
Wow. And he stayed in the...
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
And as a little boy, did you remember playing football or soccer?
You're talking to a football star. I was a football star, really. You know the famous, the world famous.
There was Puskas.
I played with Puskas.
You played with him? He was world.
He was today like Ronaldo.
And you played with him?
I played, but not in the team. He was exercising in the part of Budapest, and I was there a child looking up to him like I don't know what. But I was a very good football player.
And in the glass house, was there any balls that you could play with?
No. It was tzafuf.
It was very, very congested.
Very, yeah.
Now, did most of your family survive the Shoah?
Yeah. No, my brother not.
What happened
I had
to
a brother who didn't come back from Auschwitz.
He was sent to
He was
Auschwitz.
taken away. He was saving Jews in a Nazi uniforms. He was in Nazi uniform with many, many friends. He was 20-year-old.
He was much older than you.
I'll tell you soon why. He was saving Jews, and one day they made a meeting place, and he walked into the Nazis. Somebody malshin. They were malshinim alav.
They were traitors.
They were traitors, exactly.
They
He
exposed
walked
him,
in,
yeah.
was taken away, and never came back.
So I just want to elaborate on this. There were quite a few Jews that got dressed up in the uniforms of the Iron Cross and they would go and they'd say,
saving.
We will
He
take
was
you."
among them, Shabtai.
So he actually went to save Jews
Yeah.
that dressed up as a Nazi.
Yes.
What
And
the
you
hell?
asked why is he much older than me? Because my father remarried. He's lost his wife, and he remarried, and from that marriage I'm born.
From the second
And
marriage.
this boy, Shabtai, was taken away, never came back from Auschwitz.
So after they exposed him, or somebody they exposed him, then they sent him to Auschwitz-Birkenau.
Yes, not because on the way to Auschwitz, he jumped out of the train, and they shot him.
Oy.
Yeah, there were eduyot on this.
There was witnesses.
He was a handsome, very knowledge man. Terrible.
That must have been very hard for your father.
Yeah, my father lost his wife, lost his son, and some other children too, which is now not to this. My father went through a lot of things. I don't know how he got this through.
And did he remain religious, your
Yes.
father? He never lost
Very.
his faith. He never lost his faith.
He always told me, Avraham, whenever you see me, take a Sefer Kodesh,
A holy book.
holy, and
Jewish holy book,
learn
yeah.
with me.
Even though he went through such
And I'm
so
doing
much.
this with my son Rafi. Also, he's coming here, we are learning something.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And friends of yours that you went to school with,
Yes.
did a lot of them survive, or were
I
they...
think most survived. I want to tell you that the Hungarian Jews from the area Hasadeh, not Budapest, area Hasadeh, from Debrecen, Szeged, the big towns, they were all taken away, except Budapest. Budapest was saved, and you can say, you know how many Jews were in Budapest? Oh, I think 400,000 Jews, and they were all saved.
But the outlying areas, they were
And they
taken...
all, not outline, it's farther,
further
200 kilometers, Debrecen, big towns.
And that most were
They
taken...
were all of them.
A lot were taken to Auschwitz?
Yes, yes.
And how was your faith? I mean, for you to have gone as a young
Look,
boy through such
I
a
will tell you
calling.
something. I think
Avraham, I hope you don't mind me asking. It's a very personal question.
I am a yes man. And I suffered from this a lot. But I'm not ashamed of saying this. But mainly in the army, I was taken to Totchanim, very, very tough time. I had yes, everything yes. And as a child, you asked me how I was as a child.
Yeah.
I was a man, I was a boy who said always yes, but to my parents.
And did you ever ask, why is Hashem, why is God doing this
No,
to you?
never.
Never.
Never. Also today not.
And you've kept, since your bar mitzvah, you've been wearing tefillin all the years? And
Of course, yes. There was not one day that I didn't put on. Look, I'm a religious Jew. I'm not satisfied by myself. Also, I'm learning in the kollel, but and I've got a wife from Holland. My wife is from Holland. She's also from an Orthodox family.
And Avraham, can I just ask, going back to your childhood, were you in the Agudat Yisrael? Do you think your school
My
was...
father was.
Your father was?
Yes.
And do you remember the name Shlomo Grossberg?
Of course, he was my madrich.
He was your madrich?
He was my madrich. Very well, I remember him. I think he was also in the glass house.
Wow.
And there was another madrich, Friedman.
And growing up, did you hear the name Wallenberg? You know, today it's very well known.
Today, but then
you,
I didn't know.
And did you think your parents managed to meet him?
Might be, but I sure didn't know.
And later on, with Moshe Kraus, did you ever have any contact with him, or?
No, never.
Because he really did.
I know. Many.
I mean,
You've got here a few books from the glass house.
He was very instrumental in organizing the visas
Of
and
course.
saving so
Yes,
many.
but
so
this
many.
I didn't know when I was there. I was a child.
Okay, so now you remember when the Red Army came? You remember
Yes,
it?
definitely.
You recall it very vividly?
Exactly like today. If I saw suddenly a Russian soldier appearing and said, "You are free." He said, "You know these Russian caps?"
And you could understand a bit of Russian?
No, later, yes. Не понимаешь, like this, but no, I didn't know. But I've got a talent for languages, very much. As I told you, I married a Dutch wife. After a few months, I knew Dutch.
And when after the Russians liberated Budapest and they came to the glass house and you were free,
Yes.
you went back to your home?
Yes, that's what I told
And the
you.
home wasn't occupied by...
It was occupied by Goyim,
There's
who
no
didn't want to
Jewish,
go out,
Hungarians.
yes. But somehow they went out. And all the windows were broken and the house was like after a robbery. This I remember very well.
And how long did you stay till you went to England?
We were liberated in 1945.
So how old were you when you were liberated?
I was almost, 13, almost.
Before your bar mitzvah?
Before my bar mitzvah, and then I told you that this was communism.
And you had your bar mitzvah...
A fake bar mitzvah. My bar mitzvah was really in Parshat Nassau. And because we knew that we are going to England, my parents made for the friends a bar mitzvah.
Do you remember which synagogue you had it in?
Yeah, Shas Chevre, it's called, and it was in Parshat Be'alotcha, I think. I don't know exactly, but what I remember that I said the drosha and everything, and then we were taken 10 children to England.
And you went with your parents or just the
No,
children?
there's 10 children.
Without your parents?
Without their parents.
And who arranged that you... It wasn't...
Agudat Israel. Agudat Israel, and the madrich was called Zaif, soap. So
and this was in 1945?
1948.
48. So you stayed in...
We stayed in now the 2 years at least, 2.5 years, and we were going in school.
Okay, so why did they take to England and not...
I told you, because there was communism, and the situation was terrible. You couldn't have the shop, you couldn't have no private things, everything was from the government. You know what is communism.
And you could feel it, you could feel...
Terrible, terrible. And then my parents, I don't know exactly, that 10 children went to London.
And where did you stay in London?
In the boarding school of the Schneider Yeshiva. This was in January, and after 5 or 6 months, my parents went out as reunion with the first cousins. First kirva, you know, this kirva is, I'm a son to my father in kirva.
Relatives.
Yeah, so they arrived Rosh Hashanah.
In England?
No, in Israel. I came from, they told me to come from London to Israel. I came to Israel, and then my parents came.
So what date did you arrive in Israel?
31st January 1950, in the biggest snow.
So the state had already been established, and
Yes.
the white paper was finished, the British had already left.
Yeah.
It was
yes,
about a year and a half after the War of Independence.
Yeah, 1950.
Wow. And when you were in England, could you correspond via letters with your parents? How did you keep in contact?
This is such a sad story, I can't tell you. I arrived in, if you have got time?
Sure.
We arrived in England in first in England. We arrived in England 16th of May 1948. As 10 children in London. In London, 10 children. We don't know the Safa.
You didn't know English?
Nothing. We know
You had
Hungarian.
no relatives?
No, yeah, we had an aunt there in London. So what do I want to tell you? That in London we came there, and I saw the first red buses, or hundreds of them. I thought I arrived to Gan Eden. I don't know what. We were so upset from the beauty, because London is London, even 1948. So we studied in the Schneider Yeshiva, and one day you were asking if I was corresponding.
Oh, how did you contact
Listen
your
to
parents?
this. I was getting letters, let's say every 2-3 weeks, from my parents. One day, after a year, almost here, the madrich calls me, says, Avraham, I say, what is this? He says, here is the letter from your parents. I take it, look, it's on toilet paper written. I say, what is this? He says, your parents has been arrested in Hungary because they wanted to emigrate to Israel, and they caught them by the border, and they are sitting for 4 months. And in the prison, you can't write on paper, only on toilet paper. So I was crying as a boy of this. And then, as I told you, my parents got free, and because then I got an order to go from England to Israel for reunion for the families, and after 5-6 months my parents arrived.
And coming to Israel, you came by boat?
Yes, of course. I remember. Arza. Wow, what in there were galim,
That's
waves like
yes.
in Bimei Yonah Navi.
Wow, it was,
You
the sea
can't,
was
the sea was rough, you can't imagine. We came here in the biggest snow in the century. Yeah. You should have heard of the snow of 1950.
And where did you land? In Haifa or?
First we went to Haifa to Aliyat Noah on the top of the Carmel, and then they asked, where do you want to go?
Did you have any family in Israel at the time?
Yes, yes. Yes, a lot.
And how old were you now when you arrived
When I
in
arrived
Israel?
here, 15.
15. And what happened after you were in Aliyat Noah?
So
in the
they
youth,
taught us in London, if you come to Israel and they want to ask you where do you want to go, say Yeshivat Ponyevitz.
Oh, wow.
So we were yes men, we were out of mass, where do you want to go? Ponyevitz. So they took us to Ponyevitz.
And you went to Bnei Brak?
Yeah, you can imagine, very, very strict yeshiva.
And you were there in Ponevezh?
In Ponyevitz a few months with Rav Lau. Rav Israel Lau. Wir sind in Kol Torah. Rav Avigdor Nebenzahl, Kol Torah in my class.
Kol Torah in Bnei Brak?
From Ponyevitz, we went to Kol Torah in Yerushalayim.
But how long were you in Ponevezh?
I think 3-4 months.
And you remember Rav Kahneman?
Yeah, I got a kiss here. Yes, it was a... And Rabbanim Kael.
There's no one like him. There really is no one. He was
He loved his Talmidim.
He sacrificed so much.
Oh, yeah.
And his love for
He was
Israel
loved
and
by
Eretz
everybody,
Israel.
yes, yes.
Sure, so he has a strong connection with South Africa, with the Yidden, because most of the Yidden from South Africa come from Letta, and he would come to South Africa often, and many South Africans contributed a lot to Ponevezh.
I didn't know that.
A lot. So from Ponevezh you were there a few months, and then you came to Kol Torah in Beit-Vegan.
No.
It wasn't in Beit-Vegan.
Rehov Keren Kayemet. You know Keren Kayemet? On the corner of Usishkin was Kol Torah, where the Gymnasia Ivrit today.
Oh, there was Kol Torah.
There was Kol Torah. I think I slept in near the same room as Rav Israel Lau.
Wow.
Yeah, we were, and he also liked to play football. Yes, it was all in 1950 or something.
And when did your parents join you? When you were in Yerushalayim?
After 6 months, when I was in Israel.
And you were in Yerushalayim already?
Yeah. Yes.
And you lived in Yerushalayim?
Yes.
And did you play football?
You asked me if my parents were religious. Now listen to this. My parents didn't see by the time of me for almost 2 years. So they are coming here and they're living, I think, 600 meters from Kol Torah. So my father says to me, Avraham, you are going to be in the boarding school in Kol Torah, not at home. Because there you can learn. If you are home, you're not. Imagine this, after losing his son.
Did you have other brothers and sisters?
No. Yeah, I had. No, not real sisters, from the half sisters.
From the first marriage?
From the first marriage.
And what happened to them? Did they...
They got ill and died.
In Hungary?
Very young, here.
In here they came...
Very, very young. My father used to say from the Tzarot, they Avru. They were not 13-year-old children, they were 23. So they realized the situation in which they are now. Where were you in these years?
Wow, so in these years, Avraham, I just want to ask, when your parents came, what did your father do? And did he work here? Or?
I tell you. As I told you, they were in Hungary in the textile business.
And when they came?
And a very big business they had. And they opened here a very small business under the Shar.
Under the gate?
Under the gate, and we were there about 1-2 years, and I helped a bit.
What type of business?
Textile. Ladies' fashion.
Here in Yerushalayim as well?
Ladies' fashion. Which is still today. My daughters are there. We didn't sell the shop.
Where is the shop?
King George 14.
And it's still there?
Kovaye, Ruth, Venomi.
And it's still there today.
Still there. We passed my daughter.
King George 14.
14, yeah.
So to all our listeners, when you come to Yerushalayim, look at the shop on 14.
Very gladly.
Wow, and they had the shop all the years.
Yes, a lot of years, yes.
And
may I say something which in the book is, on the 21st of, you will get a shock now, the 21st of March, 2002, 1 year after the Ason HaTeomim in New York.
With the Twin Towers.
Twin Towers. I'm sitting in the shop. And by then we were already out of the shop. We gave over to the children the shop. It was Erev Pesach. Comes to my daughter to me and says to me, Abba, Erev Pesach, we've got so much to prepare. Be in the shop for a few hours in the afternoon. I say, gladly. I'm going in the shop, 21st of March, I'm sitting in the shop under a staircase because there's a second floor on it. And at once the shop collides on me. It was Thursday afternoon, 21st of March, 2002, a Mechabel blew up himself before our shop. Wow. 3 people died and 82 were wounded. So my first thought was, a silly thought, how do I close the shop? There's no shop. What I want to tell you later, the Iriya put a gader.
The municipality of Jerusalem.
Put a gader. 6 weeks was the gader.
It's like a fence.
Fence. That people shouldn't go in the shop. Yeah.
And were you very injured? Were you injured?
No, not injured, but here injured. 3 weeks we were out of our minds with my wife, mainly me. It was in all the papers what happened.
And the people that were killed, were they just passerbys?
You know who they were? A woman pregnant with twins and her husband, family Shemesh. There is a board next to the shop from the area.
I've actually seen it. It's a zichron. It's for the memory.
That is it. That is our shop. You know Mafe Yehuda?
Sure.
The next door to door is Kovayerut.
Were they customers in the shop?
Yeah. There's a young couple. I never saw them again. They ran out.
Wow.
Yeah.
Avraham said, you've gone through so much. I mean, you've seen.
Oh, you've
seen the establishment of this country. You've seen the Shoah. You've seen so much.
I didn't say yet anything of what I went through in the army, with the war in the middle.
So when you came here as a young boy, then you went into the army. My
father was such a religious man. I could have gotten out of the army easily. My father said, "You are going to the army." I'm a yes man. Yes man. Okay. So I went to Tot Hanim, and after a few months, about 10 months, broke out the Sinai War.
In 56.
Where I saw many gufot.
Many bodies.
Yes.
And you were sent to Sinai? You were in Sinai?
Of course, in Abu Ajila. Yes.
I think they have it in the army that if you're an only child, then
they can get free.
You can get a.
I don't think no. You should. I think only if a child chas v'shalom fell.
If a child fell.
No. You go. My father said go. My father would do like this, and I would get free.
Wow. And when it came to the 67 war, were you still in reserves?
Yeah, as an officer.
And you were an officer in the army?
Yes.
And did you serve in the 67 war?
In the 67, but not in Miluim.
In Miluim?
Yes.
And you were called up?
It's all in the book.
You were called up?
Of course. And I traveled Shabbos even.
And where were you during the 67
Here in
war?
Yerushalayim.
So you saw the reunification, you
Everything I saw.
Iratika, you saw the old city, you saw Har
I was in the yeshiva of Dushinsky, and the Rav was sitting with me. Then I went through a lot. But everything is in the book.
And Avraham, I want to just ask you, looking back on your, I mean, you have a life that is what you've only gone through, and you have such a positive outlook. And having seen what you've seen, I mean...
I tell you why. As I told you, I'm a yes man. I can't litvakeach. I can't argue. For example, if I buy mishkafayim and they are not good, then are not good, I can't raise my voice. You have to change it. I can't. I'm like this.
You have a very good dispensation. It's wonderful.
Too good.
But you've been blessed with a wonderful family.
Yes, yes, yes. And especially after I met my wife. Since I met my wife, I got married in Holland. That's a separate story. I who don't know nothing. What do I know from Holland? So I met my wife in London, and we married in Holland on a Sunday.
How old were you when you got married?
24. Very good-looking boy.
You still
very.
Kaden Hori, very good-looking as well.
Yeah, and I'm today 83-year-old.
83-year-old young.
Yeah,
very young at heart.
So what I want to tell you, I met my wife, and this was a change of my life. She's coming from a happy family. They were all the time singing. Although her father was also in the camps. But they were patephone, playing all the music and happy, and five or six children. So I came in there.
And Avraham, can I just ask? And then you after you married, you came to live in Israel?
Yes. We came back to Israel to live.
And all your family live in Israel today?
Yes.
That's a big one.
I've got children, Ohavei Eretz Israel. I who so much like to go abroad. I've got children, they are Kodesh Haaretz.
They have a love for the land.
You can't imagine.
And your parents, were they happy coming here, leaving Hungary and immigrating?
I can't answer you. I think they were forced to come. It was not from free will, because everybody did everything to come out from the Iron Curtain.
And did they make friends, also Hungarians who were living here in Israel from the war? Did they have a good circle of Hungarian friends living in Yerushalayim?
I don't know, because I was very friendly with the children of Kol Torah.
And how long were you in Kol Torah?
About a year.
And what happened after you were in Kol Torah?
I was in the army.
And you went into the army?
Into the army, yeah.
And what profession did you study or do? What profession did you study or do?
No. As I told you, I was a yes man. So I was afraid to go out to the world. I was the only child. I stepped in the shop, very easy. Very easy, and after my parents died, I was going on with the shop another 33 years.
Wonderful.
Yes.
You must have had very loyal clients, very loyal.
Yes. This is a separate story, I can write you. But everything written there. I wrote about the shop, about the explosion in the shop, in the yeshiva years. Almost everything.
And looking back on your life, Avraham, can I ask, what would you say, what would you say is the highlight, and what is the most important thing that you can take? What message can you take from...
I think the most important thing happened in my life was my marriage. Because I could have really gotten here in Israel any girl I wanted. But Kadosh Baruch Hu sent me to London to a wedding of my cousin, and there I met my wife.
It's Min HaShamayim. It was
Mishamayim, 100%.
And you've been...
That's the most
important. How many years have you been happily married?
We are now 60 years married.
Wow.
Almost in 59, and now next year is 69. 2008, 19. So 60 years we are going to be married.
Well,
we have got great-grandchildren, Bezrat Hashem. And I don't believe one thing. that I am the head of this big family. Baruch Hashem.
Baruch Hashem, really. And I think it's also a lot the schut of people like Moshe Kraus and
Yes,
Karl Lutz. And
of course, they have got a tremendous.
they
saved Jews,
they
which
saved
is the
Jews.
biggest mitzvah.
And your brother as well. Your brother. That,
No, my brother was taken
I
away.
know, but by him saving other Jews,
Yes.
it's the schut of what he did.
Yes.
I think your family's been really blessed.
Yes, yes, yes.
You come from a very special family,
Yeah.
and you're very special. And Avraham, I just cannot thank you enough for this.
Please,
This
I'm
wonderful
obliged to you that
opportunity.
you came to our house.
It's
You
been,
should come further on to our house.
It's been a big schut, a big honor to meet you.
And
to
you
hear
know,
your
as
story.
I am, I'm ending everything, book or talk, always what is the date. Today is the 9 of the 2018. That is the date today. So we should know when we made this
wonderful.
rayon.
Avraham, thank you so much.
Please.
May you have all of Hashem's blessings.
Yes, and you are invited more
And
to our house.
thank you so much. And really, I just want to end up by saying that your positive outlook on life, after all you've gone through, you really are an inspiration for Am Yisrael, for all of mankind, really.
Yeah.
And somebody we can all strive to emulate.
You know,
And I really want to thank you from the bottom of my
Thank you.
heart. It's been such an honor and a privilege.
Thank you very much. I am very close to dates. I love dates. I don't know what, when I write something, I must write the date. And I don't know why this is, perhaps because the Holocaust, I don't remember. But I always say to my children, you want to remember things? Write it down. Write it down.
You have a wonderful memory for the good, and you should just remember the good.
Yeah.
And you should only have brocha and all of Hashem's
Thank you very
blessings.
much.
Thank you very, very much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Please, please.
It's really been such a schut, such an honor to be with you today.
And same here.
You are a remarkable person,
And you know, I told you as I wrote my book, and I'm giving it to persons, and I'm saying one thing, give it to the Noah,
to the youth.
to the youth, because we are narich yamim. But give it to the next
So
generation.
they can learn the history and they can be inspired.
Yes.
Thank you very, very much.
Please, please.
It's been a great honor and a privilege.
Thank you very much.